Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Tempest Storm.
High volume.
16 carriages driving away while I watch them ride with my dreams away to the summer sunset on a...
I like to start the process off in my editing software. I have a stole template that I downloaded from Google, and I use this to create all of my stole mockups. Once uploaded, I edit the color of the base and the trim, and then I fill in each panel with the customer's recommended text. I make a lot of my images and logos by hand, but for school logos and things like that, I usually have the customer send it over or I grab it from Google just to make life a little easier. This is definitely a concise version of the designing process, so if you feel like I need to slow anything down, let me know and I can make a separate video. Once the mock is complete, I send it over to the customer for approval, and once approved, I start to export it from my editing software and import it into my cutting software. In this instance, I use a Cricut. You might have a Silhouette or another brand of cutting software, so just follow those steps when uploading. Now what you see me doing here is breaking down each piece of the stole just so I can get a better quality photo when I take it into Design Space. If I don't do this, then sometimes some of my designs can be a little warped or some of the details don't come out. So you'll see this here in this criminal justice portion. When I first uploaded it, some of the details in the A didn't really come out, so I had to re-upload it to fix that error because you just want everything to be quality. So you see here, it didn't really come out, and so I just re-uploaded it to make sure that everything looked good. Once everything is uploaded, I move on to arranging and resizing everything. So if I'm using a 60-inch stole, I usually size each panel 3.3 inches in width by 16 inches in height. Now, if I'm using a 72-inch stole, I still size my width at 3.3 inches, but I take my height to about 18 to 20 inches, just depending on how much information the student is wanting on the stole. So moving on to how I make my trims. I take a square out of shapes and I size that to 0.3 inches by 20 inches, and I'm left with these really long 20-inch strips. I make 4 of those for each side and I color them based on whatever colors were in the mock-up. Once your trim is complete, take one more glance and then go ahead and save and move on into the cutting process. And this step's pretty easy. I just like to rearrange my mats, make sure I mirror everything, cut, and let's move on to pressing. Alright, now to the fun part, assembly. First up is our non-trimmed stole. I like to first knock out all of the wrinkles in the stole just by giving it a quick press. The non-trimmed stole is a very easy stole to make just because you don't have to lay a trim. Once you've cut and weeded everything, you literally just line up your wording and put it on the stole. As long as it's lined up and even, you're good to go. There's not really much to it, so that's what you see me doing here. For this student, I'm just going ahead and lining up his wording first, and then I'll add his logos last. Now, even though this is a very simple process, you still want to take your time and make sure everything's aligned and nothing's out of place, because once it's on there, baby, it's on there. I mean, you can use the little tricks to take the vinyl off, but residue still gets left behind, and you'll have to scrap the project because you don't want to send that off. So once everything is tacked in place, we're going to move on to logos. I use printable vinyl, a very high quality printable vinyl, and I just press those and make sure they're adhered. For simple logos like the one at the bottom, I do go ahead and cut those out with vinyl, but to save myself hassle and time, sometimes I do over 100 of these a semester. A high quality printable vinyl is definitely the way to go. And once everything's tacked in place, you want to give the whole stole a good full long press for a good 45 seconds and you're done. This next example will be a one color trimmed stole. So you're gonna see me pulling off my glitter vinyl here. This only works with glitter vinyl because glitter vinyl is super thick. I'm able to use my iron and just tack everything into place. These satin stoles are super forgiving, so you're free to iron away without fear of getting any iron marks or anything onto your stole. You do wanna make sure your iron is clean because I'm working with white stoles. I work with majority white stoles, but transfer onto a stole is terrible, so you just wanna make sure they're clean. But as you can see, I'm just taking those strips that I had and I'm lining them on the perimeter of the stole, and I'm tacking them into place. And here's another angle of a two-colored stole. This time, same process. I'm removing the vinyl from the backing and I'm just tacking them into place. When one strip of vinyl runs out, I pick up another of the same color and pick up where I left off, and it blends seamlessly. The trim laying process can be very tedious, so you just want to make sure that you take your time and make sure everything's lined up on the perimeter and that everything looks clean and uniformed. Once you've got both sides of your trim intact, go ahead and give the entire stole a good press, and then you can add all the students' information as normal. Now moving on to the money makers, baby. So in my shop, I call this a dual base stole, and I basically just seam rip 2 stoles down the middle and sew them back together to give a dual base look. Now this does involve a little bit of hand sewing, but it's nothing major, I promise. I just take some thread that's the color of one of the stoles, and I very carefully sew them back together, making sure it looks neat. And I mean, it's in the back of the neck anyway, but if you're selling these, you want to make sure that anything you send is pretty quality. Once it's sewn together, I go ahead and press it down the middle, and then we can add our trim as normal, and then add our information. And you can get pretty creative with these, y'all. I've seen so many people. I used to think that I was that girl making these, and I've seen so many people that I'm like, how did you do that? So just have fun. Last but not least, my favorite package that I offer, the full glitter stole. So this includes a glitter base and then all glitter text and trim. So what you see me here is taking my 12 by 20 sheets of vinyl that I get from my local vinyl shop, and I'm basically just measuring the width of the entire stole and making strips of vinyl that I can lay on top of the stole and press down. So you see me lay the red side and then the white side. I press those down and then I continue up the stole until both halves are covered. I then take and trim the excess off. And don't worry about it not looking the best because we're adding a trim. So then you add your trim as normal. Keep up, you keeping up? Add your trim as normal, and then you can add on your information and text as normal. It's very simple, it's just an extra step, but it's an extra step that can put a little more money in your pocket. We've reached the end of the video, and I really hope you found this tutorial to be somewhat helpful. If I missed anything or you would like me to clarify any specific step, don't hesitate to leave me a comment down below or reach out to me on TikTok and Instagram. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video, and be sure to hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. See y'all in the next one.
16 carriages driving away.